I thought this would be the perfect poem for this episode. People Aren't Homes by Nikita Gill. Child, why did no one ever teach you that you cannot turn people into homes? People are rivers, ever changing, ever flowing. They will disappear with everything you put inside them. Still, your home does have a heartbeat, but it isn't one locked in anyone else's chest. Just look inside your own. I like to think that my ancestors engraved the proverb "Mutuki mutuka batu" in our DNA through their lived experiences. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about community, the concept of community, the experience of community, the meaning of community, and the reality of community, I'm finding it necessary and I'm finding it a need that I define what community is for me personally going forward, The control and the autonomy that I feel in redefining experiences for myself, and I guess concepts for myself. That feeling, it resembles the concept that people who are religious, like Christian people, when they speak about free will, I feel it feels that way. I feel like I'm finally actively practicing free will. I'm accepting of reality, and I'm taking full responsibility of my part in it, and the role that I play in reality. And it's quite interesting, man. It's interesting conceptually, it's interesting to live. So we are just at that place where we're actually putting meat to the bone of what life is, and one of the things that life consists of is community. So I'm in that place in my life where I'm defining what I actually want that to be, or what that is for me. I guess the reason why I felt the need to redefine what community means to me is, I guess I just felt the need to get more control over my narrative, quite intentionally. Because from the day you are born, everything you absorb is just what you found here, what your mom is interested in, what your dad is interested in. When you go to school, what the school says you must read, what your friends are interested in. Personally, that's literally how I've lived most of my life. And now it's kind of time for me to literally choose what I want to consume intentionally, and not just coincidentally. I think I've been learning the importance of having what you want around you, instead of just being lost and alone in everything that you don't want. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. So yeah, that's kind of why I've been feeling the need to redefine community. So let's start off with a little background check in terms of my experience with community. So Silwani is born in the year 1997 in Johannesburg, South Africa, Gauteng, South Africa. Basic child's experience. I think I had it. I think to really describe the community I was born into, we can start as removed as the practices that we partook in. So one thing that we definitely did was church. Church is Christianity. In church there's rules. Church indoctrinates patriarchy into you. It also indoctrinates like purity culture into you. It just does a lot of things, man. It also grooms you to be someone who takes care of themselves in terms of like your physical image and stuff like that, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think I learned a lot about styling myself through engaging with people, my peers at church, at school as well. That's just what happens when you're in community with people, regardless of the context. However, if the context is community is Christianity or religion, then it will be diluted by the principles of religion, which include patriarchy, homophobia, and stuff like that. So yeah, so I had a pretty I was born into a pretty, I'll call it a whole community. The ills of the community I was born into, I can almost explain them away with the system. Like literally my father's behavior, my mother's behavior, I don't want to take away their autonomy or their humanity or their free will in how their lives have gone. But I do want to see, in everyone's life, I can see how the system plays out, even in my own. So, if the system is by nature oppressive, my dad, he worked in a mine, he had to speak Afrikaans. That's you live in a society that's telling you you're not enough in somewhat way. Just add Afrikaans so that we can understand you. My name is Perseverance, so we can understand you. You can't exist in a society where we've normalized banks literally robbing people and then think that how we exist as individuals one by one in our personal realities will not be toxic in somewhat way. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think it's logical. There was no way that was gonna happen like that. So I guess the community I was born into, because of the normalized oppression of society at large, there was also normalized toxicity, normalized abuse. So you normalized ignorance, normalized so we'll make it a little bit more personal. I'm gonna give examples of basically how these systems manifested themselves in my life personally. I remember my parents in their arguments, my dad insisting how two bulls couldn't live in one kraal, you know. What he meant was that my mom had to submit and be less than for him, and that stuff was normal. He didn't flinch. He felt normal. Even my mom receiving that information didn't flinch. It felt normal, but living that reality was hard, obviously. And that's why he felt the need to consistently remind her, that that's not how it's gonna work. It's because she was struggling to not be a bull in her own home. And parents live these realities and they think we can't see or we don't make meaning of our own of things like this. But patriarchy was alive and well in my home. Patriarchy is alive and well inside me right now. And I guess to unpack patriarchy and to let go of patriarchy for me means to acknowledge that it's alive and well within me, and to be in community with people who are also aware of it being alive and well within themselves and are actively working against that and working to unlearn that. So it's not just patriarchy. Also, my parents were never really materialistic people, ever, but they were always people who treasured making themselves happy. Every time my father got a car, he celebrated that as something he deserved. We celebrated that as something he deserved, never as something that was not likely for him or something that was out of reach for him, So I guess there's an element of my parents were not graduates of any kind. They were very normal people, and they taught me contentment in a sense, and just knowing what enough means, knowing that I don't need. And like that has been helpful, but it has also been limiting in the sense that when you live in a oppressive or abusive society and you normalize abuse, and then you don't tell yourself you have needs, or you tell yourself you're fine no matter what, it's like then you just live in like perpetuated abuse because you're fine no matter what, and you're not dying, you don't need anything. But then at the same time, it's such a great thing in the sense that it turns you into a giving person, a person who doesn't hoard, a person who sees the importance of the current meal for everyone rather than the meals to come for themselves. And I think that's kind of, I think that's a part of myself that I'll still carry, that I found in the community where I was born into, that I don't feel needs to be redefined at all. Also, so fine in terms of finances, I guess, like I've never felt like I wasn't worth money, but I've always felt like I could take it when I can't have something, when there's a limit I can take it, which it's not great for you, because sometimes you have to push to get things. You can't just always just be accepting that you didn't make it. Whereas like that's the kind of person I am, the kind of person I was like conditioned to be even. And then I think of my community in terms of like hierarchy, age, and whatever. Okay, so obviously there's like the patriarchy thing, but like also patriarchy was also absent in my house, in the sense that my mom insisted on all my siblings doing house chores. So in some ways it was there, but in some ways it wasn't. And then there was like hierarchy really, really played a part in just like the value of your voice. So when you're a child, you don't even choose what you eat, bro. You just eat what the grown-ups cooked. When you were existing in that reality, it's not like terrible, honestly. I think of so many people who are living that reality now. I know people, and it's such a classic result of the system that I can't even deny its current reality, its current existence. So basically, kids' choices are never a thing in a society where people are oppressed. And so we all lived some warped kind of reality. Man, I was just born in a society, I was born in a community of a normal family that had internalized like white supremacist principles and like perpetuated them in how they lived, held some of them quite close to heart, and let go of some of the ones they were aware were harmful. And I think that's a pretty decent community. That's my home. I think I come from decent people who did what they could with the life situations they had. And I will always, always, always be grateful to my parents and my siblings. Yeah. And then like you go into an expanded community. Now you expand your community, you meet friends, you see how different family dynamics play out through a person when you interact with them. So for instance, I could speak Zulu with my friends in primary school. They could never speak Sotho. When they spoke Sotho with me, it was a joke to attempt to learn it. You learn that you can actually reach out to people by learning their languages. That's a community. That's me. That's how I existed in the community I existed in. Man, I was such a people pleaser, man. In the most innocent sense, because I really thought I had to be how other people needed me to be from at home. Like you have to be a child. you are a child, but you have to be a child by people's definition of a child. And people's definition of a child is that you wear what we've chosen for you, you don't have a say, you ask too many questions, you cry too much. You just like, personally, I just absorbed that and I decided that was who I am, you know. And so when you go out in the world and kids push you, you know, at home they said you cry too much, you try not to cry, you know. You normalize taking pain because that's all you know. So this system is fucking lying. Community doesn't have to be people who don't consider your emotions. Community doesn't have to be people who don't share interests with you. Community literally can be whatever you want it to be, for as long as you work on it. So if I'm keeping it a buck, and I'm keeping it 100, I am basically creating community. I am meeting new people. I am learning about new ways of lives. I am becoming aware of my own limiting beliefs by talking to people who are aware of their own. And I'm healing, and I guess like I'm healing and I'm reforming and I'm changing and I'm becoming. And my community kind of reflects that currently, and it's reflecting like a transformational phase, and I'm happy with that. In this like transformational phase, there are quite a few things that I really think were in the previous unconscious definition of community for me that I'm sure that I wanted to let go of. I want to let go of like tolerance for ignorance in my community. I want a community that actively calls out ignorance. I want to exist in that community, and so to do that, I have to be someone who actively calls out ignorance. I want to exist in a society that actively models liberation. And so for that, I also have to basically actively model liberation. I want to be in a society of people who are curious about bettering themselves in the world. So, which means I also have to be that person. You know, as a child, like I was saying this to my therapist, I remember feeling like I didn't fit in any way. Like when my parents would go to family brides, and my cousins were either always older than me or younger than me, really hardly ever like exactly my age. And I used the age difference to explain why I couldn't play and hang out with them, but it was more than that. I think I was different, and I didn't find interest in the same things as they found like interest. And I knew that if at least we were the same age, the content I learned at school were the few things that I could relate to kids about, or my peers about. And so if you're not exactly my age, the content you had and the content I had was just not working. And maybe you wanted to run around, and I hated running around and playing like that as a kid. So like I never felt like I fitted in from long ago. Also, like the dynamic of my siblings being like so much older than me. My siblings, like, I have the biggest age gap between myself and the sibling that I come after, and then there is a much smaller gap. So I've always felt like a child amongst my siblings while they're like adults, you know. And that has always made me feel a little bit different. Being a last born, that makes you feel a little bit different, you know, when you just like exist and you're different, and that's what everyone is telling you. They telling you you're different because you're last born, you're different. You can see they're treating you differently because of where you stand in their perception. And when I go out in the world unconsciously, I let people treat me how they perceived me, not how I actually wanted to be treated, and how I actually regarded myself. And I remember like the few instances of bullying that I had as a kid. In primary school, going back home and telling my dad that, hey, My dad said to me, like, don't like focus on it too much, don't stress on it too much. God would fight these kids for you. And like, you take that and you live by that as an adult, while men are doing the shittiest things to you. Your friends are doing the weirdest things to you. You are living by that definition. You living by that. You were taught from childhood, you programmed yourself from childhood that that's how you exist with people. You just let God deal with them. You don't call them out, you don't check them, and like, it's so weird how we load definitions and meanings of things unconsciously, and then we go on to create our own personal existences. Because I wasn't creating my dad's life, I wasn't creating my mom's life, I wasn't creating my siblings' younger sister's life. I was just creating my life, and then I was using their perceptions of me to do that, because they were teaching me things based on how they were perceiving me. I want to expand the opinions. I want to expand the perspectives that I'm being seen from. I want people who are as sensitive as I am to perceive me and validate me, and not make me feel like I'm weak and out of control. I want people who hate the system to perceive me and validate me and say, actually, you're not crazy, something is wrong, and we can hold hands and work together through it all. I want to change, man, in terms of community, and it's so possible, and that's the great part of it. I can see my life is the community I'm growing into and I'm creating is proving to me how possible it is to live and not feel different. Like, know you are different, but not feel it, because I know I am different. I am. It's like, there's no one else like me. We all are different, but there's no need to keep making each other feel that way. There's literally no need to make each other feel that way. And I don't want to exist in societies or in communities where people make me feel different in a way that makes me less than. Like, see my difference as not something that adds or takes away from my value. My value is just in my existence, and my differences are just here for you to experience, not for you to gauge or judge. And I've been meeting a lot of people who have perceived me that way and have made me comfortable in perceiving them that way. And I think also the people that have been in my community all my life are also seeing me change and slowly changing in their own ways. And it's showing me the power we have in terms of creation, in terms of changing society. It's so crazy that, like, because of oppression and like colonialism and African history, we have to now eradicate a culture of abuse from within us, as if it's something that we possess innately. It's just crazy for me, but I'm here for it. Let's change the world from the bottom up. So basically, I'm creating a community of people who I can be like upfront with, and who will be upfront with me about the impact of my existence. Sometimes we want to hold on to belief systems and stuff like that because we have the right to. I want people around me who ask me, why do you want to hold on to this? What does it make you feel? What do you get from it? So that, like, I guess we can create a reality more consciously and not like just be victims to reality. Because think about like having people around you who are clear on things and like are on the same page on things that matter. Think about how safe that environment is, how nurturing that environment is, how much of yourself you could become in such an environment. And I'm saying think about it, and I think about it all the time, but I'm also living in it. I'm seeing myself become this I don't know what I'm becoming. Me. And it's amazing to live in. And it's also amazing to curate, you know. I mean, even when I talk to my nieces and nephews, I pour into them the principles of the community that I want to live in. When I meet people and I talk to them, I pour to them the principles of a community that I want to exist in. You know, how am I doing that? I am trying to live in the present moment, firstly. I'm trying to let people surprise me. Secondly, I'm trying to shut up more. I am also just letting go, you know, like part of me, like for a big portion of this phase where I've been just becoming myself in a more conscious way, I've insisted my views and my understandings on people because I have accepted it to myself as knowing and as information. And I guess that's also something that I want to let go of in terms of who I want to be as community and who I want to be within community or be in community with. English sucks, just FYI. I'm letting go of it because I guess I understand that I have so much more to learn. Knowing the system doesn't mean knowing people. It means knowing who the system wants people to be. So I'm taking an approach of like sitting back and letting people like tell me what's going on for them, what they see, what they know, what they understand, asking questions more. And I want to exist around people like that, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. So yeah, that's just where I'm at with community. We're just like redefining, like putting in the puzzle, seeing what fits, how it fits. We are creating the definition as we live it. And I think there are two core values or two core principles that I am sure I see present in my futuristic image of community. Those are people who see life and humanity in themselves and life in all that is living. The ability to like step out of your shoes and see a worldview that is bigger than your existence but includes yours, doesn't oppose yours, like the unlocking of a binary perspective to everything is that's kind of like the core values and principles that I see living and thriving in the vision I have of community for myself. And you know, I'm quite excited to see what that's gonna be like. I will see what it's gonna be like, luckily for me. Not that I'm a special person or anything. I'm just a very random, normal person, and I deserve very special, random things, such as a reality that I choose. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. What has been your experience of